I guess to my females and my gay men in the audience, what do you think? Is this correct? What I'm putting right here? Give me a yes or a hell no, okay? Or as Destiny puts it, an absolutely not. All right. So there you go. I think this will set the because I think some of you, if you follow me on socials, you might say Lee. I think Lee really is looking forward to that. After he saw that photo, I think Lee's pump the brakes. Okay, pump the brakes. Let me start off by saying, Brandon Lee is that one celebrity that hit me the hardest as far as like a celebrity death. I don't know why. I can't explain it. It was an emotional response. But even before I saw The Crow, for some reason, it just, maybe it was just the nature that he died. This wasn't like a drug overdose. This was a terrible accident while the guy was at work. And I think him being Bruce Lee's son and seeing so much potential in this guy, I had just, before he died, I had just seen Rapid Fire in the theater. I think, was it Andrew Davis who directed Rapid Fire? I'm not sure. But I really dug that movie. I thought it was really good. And it kind of set Brandon up to follow in his father's footsteps. And I was like, oh, okay, he's going to be another martial artist type guy. But then, before he died, they announced Brandon's next project was going to be called The Crow. And it was going to be this dark, gothic comic book story. And if you remember back in 94, guys, comic book movies, I mean, you had Batman and Batman Returns. It wasn't like today at all. You would get maybe one every now and then. Blade had not come out yet. This was way before all that. And they started off pretty dark right off the get-go, you know. Superman was a little bit more lighthearted, you know, from the 70s and 80s. But here comes The Crow, and immediately I thought that the name The Crow is kind of genius. Immediately I'm interested. Okay, because a crow's kind of like the raven. It's a dark animal. I automatically thought of like Edgar Allan Poe, and thinking of death because the plot, because they announced what the plot was for this movie. It was going to be about a guy who comes back from the dead to avenge his fiance and himself. And then we found out that Brandon Lee died. And, and I remember, and a lot of you guys were way too young to maybe remember a lot of this stuff. But I remember nobody thought that this movie was going to come out. If you watched, I think it was Hard Copy, there were a lot of those tabloid mag television shows, and they were covering The Crow big time after the accident happened. It was all over the news. There were like conspiracy theories, like, was it related to his father? Was this set up? It was really interesting and sad at the time, because here was this guy who had so much ahead of him. And then the movie came out. And I expected the movie to be not that good because they didn't finish it, but they finished most of it. And man, I saw that movie opening night. I was counting the days. I couldn't wait. I wanted to see it so bad. And I saw it in the theater opening night. And it, I'll just say it's one of the most unique theater experiences I've ever had. When the credits rolled, you could hear a pin drop in the theater. I want to say there were tears, especially the scene where he sees the trick-or-treaters coming and you see Brandon is kind of sad. That was like a nice little moment for Brandon. And the reason I'm saying all this is because I want you guys to know that Brandon is still, to this day, a very important person in my life. And I know that sounds really silly, but what I mean by that is The Crow is pretty much my favorite movie. I always say The Crow and Halloween are pretty much tied. It's the movie that has more of an emotional impact on me than anything. The tragedy of Brandon dying thinking of what he could have become. He could have been like an amazing Neo in the Matrix. You always hear about these roles that, wow, Brandon Lee would have been great in that. I think he was set to possibly be in Mortal Kombat. I think he had a bright career ahead of him, and I think it was also just really sad because he was getting married 2 weeks after he died. And man, it was a rough time, for his family and for everything that went, and for Alex Proyas, who went into a deep depression. If you watch the cursed films on The Crow, I've watched it twice. I highly recommend you guys check that out if you haven't. It's like 30 minutes, I think. And I dare you not to cry when you get to the end of it, because still to this day, and I think when Cursed Films came out, it was, maybe 25 years later or something like that. And there are people, like, I think it was Edward R. Pressman, the producer, and he's talking about Brandon, and they got to the point where Brandon went to the hospital, and they said, did you go to the hospital with him? And he said, yes, I did. And then he paused, and he was like, I don't want to talk about that. That's still to this day, that's how heavy that is for this guy. That he still has this memory of being in the hospital with Brandon, and still to this day he can't talk about it. And there were quite a few interviewees in that documentary where they were choking up. Still to this day, it's a hard thing for everybody that was involved. So Brandon is severely missed, and nothing will ever take away what he did for The Crow. He is Eric Draven. And if I can say anything about this new movie that's coming out, I look at it as an alternate universe, right? And at the end of the day, it's a movie. Would I prefer them to never use the name Eric Draven again? Absolutely. I'm putting that out there on the table right now. I'm not hell-bent on, no, I'm not like that, but I'm just, if I had a choice, I would like them to just give him a different name. And maybe that's how I'll view the movie when I go in. I won't even think of him as Eric Draven. Like I said, alternate reality. That's pretty much how I'll look at it. What's up, guys? You are at the middle of the video. Don't go anywhere. There's still plenty of content ahead of you, but just wanted to break right here to say you are at Drumdums Xtra, my second channel. If you like my main channel and you're not subscribed, I would urge you to subscribe to this channel, okay? Because this is where I do a lot of my horror updates and whatnot. I moved all that stuff over to here, and it's more of a live stream type feel to it. You'll see little comments, in the chat there. But yeah. I am working really hard on this channel, just as hard as I am on the other channel. You'll see at least 3 or 4 videos a week. And most of it's like horror news, topical type stuff. Got some rankings on there and whatnot. So big thank you to you guys for giving this channel a chance. I'm having a blast with it, okay? It's like a new life. So the main channel's still the main channel, but this is more for this type of content. So anyway, guys, back to the video. And subscribe, damn it. Alex Proyas. He had some not so kind words to say. I guess he saw this image that you see. I kind of feel bad for Bill Skarsgard right now because he is getting raked across the coals, and I don't think people are raking him. I think they're raking the artistic choices, which he probably has nothing to do with. Okay, he's an actor. He comes in for a part. They say, "Hey, this is what we want the character to look like," and he is just the guy that, cuts his hair, puts on whatever, tattoos, all that stuff. So I definitely don't harbor any ill will towards Bill Skarsgård. And I think Bill Skarsgård's a really good actor, and I think he's the one thing that's keeping me holding on to this movie. That's saying maybe there's a chance, because I think he is that capable of an actor, okay? So yeah, there's the full image of Bill Skarsgård. Boy, he lost some weight for this. Brandon Lee actually lost 20 pounds himself for The Crow. And if you watch, Brandon Lee's pretty much jacked just like that, but you don't really see it that much. So I guess that's one I don't want to say issue because I haven't seen the movie yet, but I'm hoping this movie isn't let's show off the abs for, every other scene in the movie. Brandon didn't do that at all. He pretty much, it was more functional, when he crawled out of the grave, he's walking down, he's got his shirt off, he's freezing his ass off. And from the rest of the movie though, yeah, he's fully covered. So I'm hoping that maybe that's the only time we see, a shirtless Bill Skarsgard. And I know a lot of women might not like that idea, but it's not, The Crow is not about that. Okay. It's not about, it's not The Covenant, right? Have you guys ever seen The Covenant from I think the mid 2000s or something like that? And you got all the guys in the shower. That wouldn't be the Crow movie, right? One thing that does kind of irk me is the nipple. Like, what? It looks like a guy with one eye being a pimple. That's what it looks like. It doesn't look right at all. Okay? It's kind of strange, kind of weird, and I don't like it. Because there are a lot of bad Crow movies, I'm not angry at this. Really, the only real reason for people to be angry at this is because he's going by Eric Draven. I get that. I completely understand that. But I happen to be a fan of the Crow character. And if you want to talk about if this should happen or not, this movie is basically an adaptation. It's not really a remake. It's an adaptation of the graphic novel. And even Brandon didn't look exactly like the graphic novel. Little education for you guys that might not know. In the graphic novel, the Crow is modeled after Ian Curtis's face from Joy Division and Iggy Pop, his body, which Iggy Pop ended up being in the Crow City of Angels. James O'Barr had his influences, and he wrote The Crow in the 80s, and it was more of kind of a punk rock type aesthetic. Yeah, he's a rock and roll guy, but if you take the type of music that, say, Brandon, Eric Draven, Brandon Lee's version played in the first Crow, I'd say it was more alternative, goth rock, something to that level. But the movie didn't really focus on the music that much anyway. I mean, don't get me wrong, the soundtrack is amazing, but I'm talking about Eric Draven as a musician. You do have the two iconic scenes where he's on the roof and he's playing the guitar, and they're badass. Were there any of you that said, I'm curious to see this movie, but as soon as you saw that image, you were like, okay, I'm out? Be honest. Any of you. Were you thinking that, okay, I'm out, I cannot watch this movie now because of this image? I can tell you my reaction was pretty much the same. I'm still going to watch the movie no matter what. When I saw the image, I did like this. Oh, that's different. I didn't expect that at all. Wow. It's almost like it's kind of jarring and it's a lot to take in. Like, it's not all bad. Can I be fully upfront with you guys? I don't think the image is all bad. I think there's negatives about the image. I think they could have toned down the tattoos. I actually love the cinematography, the way the image looks, because I had heard things about this movie, and let's just say when I saw this image, it went a little bit against what I had heard about it, which kind of got me excited. So if this is what the cinematography for this movie is going to look like, set aside how he looks, that's a good start. That's a really good start because it looks like it has high production value. High production value goes a long way for me. Now, that only gets you 10% to the actual movie being great, though. Okay, I've seen tons of movies with amazing high production value, and the movie be shallow as shit. Okay, shallow as shit. So you still got to give me a good story and good characters and all that. Maybe it's good to start off at the lowest, reception wise. Because then you got nowhere to go it up, right? If this came out and it was the most awesome freaking image imaginable, then you got nowhere to go but down. Okay, so I think that might be a little positive in their favor. Okay, because they always say there's no such thing as bad press, right? If anything, I think because this image is so controversial looking, it got more people talking, You got like freaking like John Campea, who doesn't normally talk about horror stuff that much. 2 days in a row now, he's talked about The Crow. And do you think that's because maybe this image has kind of caused a little bit of outrage? Maybe. And maybe that's why we're talking about it. And again, that could be a good thing for this movie, because when that trailer comes out, guys, if that trailer is awesome as hell, then it's only gonna make this better, right? Then I think there's a potential for a lot more buzz, marketing-wise, for this movie, and it could have a good opening weekend, right? I do think the trailer needs to be really good, though, you know? But I think it's a good thing that they got nowhere to go but up, okay? It's good to start at the worst reception, you know? And plus, I think everybody likes an underdog, right? Like, it's not like this movie cost $200 million or anything, or even $100 million. So I think everybody does like an underdog story where nobody believed in the property at first, and then all of a sudden it kind of like Prey. When Prey was announced, there were so many naysayers. You can't do a freaking a woman predator movie. That's too predictable in this day and age. And it's coming to Hulu. You know, it's not even coming to theaters. So Prey really started off in rough territory. And then the movie comes out, and I'd say arguably to a mostly positive reception. I loved Prey. I thought Prey was really great, you know? Not the worst Predator movie at all. I would love for this movie to be this year's Prey. That would be amazing to me. If they can somehow turn this ship around, and maybe there's some context here that we're missing, and maybe we find out that the way this character looks is a big part of who he is as a person. And, maybe they explore why he looks the way he looks. And then eventually we get on board. And by the time he becomes the Crow, then it could be a great thing. And I know I'm trying to be as positive as I can about this, but I'm still heavily on board, if you can't tell. Heavily on board.